Our leader first said it's all a conspiracy theory, then came out and said that, well, actually it wasn't, and I'm going to give the information to the CPS. So there's lying and misleading the House. And then in the process of doing that, deliberately misquoted somebody else, which is lying and misleading to the House. And then the Speaker of the House, who originally points out the fact that there's a problem with Chinese influence in the House, then went, well, yeah, he did misquote you, but we'll just put it in a bin and leave it on the fridge and it'll all be okay in the morning.
We've all been lied to our whole lives. Can't you bloody tell? Across the ocean.
Well, hello, you gorgeous mother truckers, you, and welcome to another video. Right then, so it's the Russians is the tagline that's used for everything now. Brexit was because of the Russians. Reform are full of Russians. Everybody's Russians, because that worked so well in the American election, didn't it? But that isn't the real issue, because the real issue is the fact that it is now blatantly obvious that our sitting government has sold us out to the Chinese. It's never about the Russians. It's always about the Chinese. Like, as I said with Jaguar Land Rover, it was the Russians who hacked Jaguar Land Rover. If it was a hack, which I have my doubts about, but if it was a hack, the country that would gain the most is China. You see, the reason that China would gain the most is the Chinese now are flooding the UK market with, let's be brutally honest, almost blatant rip-offs of Land Rovers. They're cheaper and they also give you more equipment. So it is, in my mind, if it was a hack, I still have my doubts, but if it was, I would say the only people who would really gain would be the Chinese. We then have this Chinese spying case, which I've touched on before, where two people who worked for the government were discovered to have been spying for the Chinese government, paid to do so. This went to court, and the court case collapsed because the government refused to give any pertinent information. CPS said so. One of the former security chiefs called Keir Starmer and the Labour government a threat to national security. Keir then went upon questions and said, oh, it's all a conspiracy theory. We didn't do this, we didn't do that, we didn't do this. And then the next time went, well, we're releasing all this information to the CPS, which is too late because the case has collapsed. Then we get Sir Lindsay Hoyle, a man who I don't particularly think he's a awesome human. I mean, remember, he spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on having a portrait of himself, the egotistical dickhead. But in any case, he said this.
Before the Minister, I will wish to make a brief statement. Members will know that I've already put on record my disappointment that the charges against two individuals relating to espionage for the Chinese authorities have been dropped. Not only disappointment, but I'm very angry. It is of the utmost importance to me that all those who work in this Parliament are able to undertake their activities securely and without interference. I continue to seek advice from officials on what further steps might be taken to pursue the issue in other ways. I will be issuing an updated security guidance to members later today. I think there is something the government ought to be aware of. It is this Parliament that has been spied on. It is MPs who have been here. It is MPs' offices that have been infiltrated. And as it stands, what we have seen is the payment for spying on what I believe we should be protected. At this moment, I feel we haven't had the protection. I certainly don't blame the Minister. I know that he will be answering a lot in his statement and taking many questions. But I do want to put on record, I'm angry, I'm disappointed. My job is to protect Parliament. I feel we aren't getting that protection. I now call the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So what he's basically saying is the Chinese have tendrils all over the government. Apparently and allegedly, I have to say this because he's the several MPs are in the investigation, and so many members of staff. It's almost as if China runs the government. Then there's the fact that the Chinese are getting a super embassy, a massive building, which will even have its own secret police building in. And it's right in the centre of London, with access to underground tunnels, etc. But that's okay, because that's normal. You see, this government has committed treason. I mean, it's committed treason on a multitude of things, but deliberately allowing two people to escape being anything done to them for spying for the Chinese is treason. He's also, I mean, on multiple occasions, again, misled and lied to the House of Commons, which is, you can't do that. Well, apparently you can if you're Labour now. And the fact that no one seems to care in the Houses of Parliament. So, in his defence of basically being a useless, traitorous scum over this Chinese thing, he turned around and he misquoted Mr. Cleverly. And Mr. Cleverly was not too impressed about this, so, well, he said this.
In the statement that the Security Minister made earlier this week, and then again in answer to a question, I have been misquoted, and the misquote, I think, is significant. It has been said that I, in a speech at Mansion House, said that describing China as a threat was impossible, impractical, and most importantly, unwise. The quote was that describing China as one word, or our policy in one word, is impossible, impractical, and most importantly, unwise. And, Mr. Speaker, in that speech, I went on to say that our policy, first, we will strengthen our national security protections wherever Beijing's actions pose a threat to our people or prosperity. And I finished by saying, and when there are tensions with other objectives, we will always put our national security first. How can I get redress for this misquote, Mr. Speaker?
Do you want to come back? No. What I would say is, look, you put it on the record. It is there now for all to see. I will now leave it at that stage. That completes premises.
Now, the literal, we'll put a pin on it, we'll put it on the fridge, we'll look at it later, attitude of Mr. Hoyle, Speaker Hoyle, shows the fact that he's prepared to cover up misleading the House. By deliberately misquoting somebody is misleading the House. It's lying to the Houses of Parliament. This China thing is huge, absolutely massive. As I said, because I'd been talking about it in the last video about up the road, I mean, if you want to know, literally, if you sort of take a line sort of in that direction, if you kind of go sort of over that way, literally, Land Rover's just at the back of there. Okay? And I was talking about the cyber attack, and I was like, well, it can't be the Russians. What would the Russians gain? And then I sat down and had to think about it, and then I realised that the people who would gain the most are the Chinese. The Chinese would gain by destroying Land Rover because they're releasing their own versions of Land Rovers. The Chinese are getting a super embassy where no one else can, right in the heart of London, over tunnels, etc., undergrounds, etc. Two people who were caught spying for China, well, they got let off because our government refused to give the information. Our leader first said it's all a conspiracy theory, then came out and said that, well, actually it wasn't, and I'm going to give the information to the CPS. So there's lying and misleading the House. And then in the process of doing that, deliberately misquoted somebody else, which is lying and misleading to the House. And then the Speaker of the House, who originally points out the fact that there's a problem with Chinese influence in the House, then went, well, yeah, he did misquote you, but we'll just put it in a bin and leave it on the fridge and it'll all be okay in the morning. Please shut up, because he lied and misled the House. And it continues to rumble on. Now, the implementation of digital ID, etc., is, well, shall we say, a very Chinese idea. 15-minute cities are a very Chinese idea. Makes you think that with all that, it's Russia, it's the Russians. Oh, look, no, it's the Russians. Is a distraction from the actual threat, which is the Chinese. The Chinese buy places up like you wouldn't believe. And America has this problem under Biden, where Chinese companies were buying land on strategic islands all over the Pacific, etc. You know, mining companies, etc. And it was allowed to happen. We gave the Chagos Islands back to Mauritius, who are literally sleeping with the Chinese. We then leased the island back off them, giving them even more money, on one condition, that if we ever launch anything from the Chagos bases, we have to tell Mauritius first, who are then going to promptly tell the Chinese. So that completely negates any effectiveness of that base. And that's the same for the Americans. Still trying to figure out why the Americans allowed that to happen. Because the Chagos Islands are important. Diego Garcia is the base that's on there. You see, we're all, with the media and everybody else, is fixated on it's the Russians, because they want a war with Russia. Because they genuinely, I'll talk about this in a bit, in another video, the NATO, some of the NATO, most of the NATO leaders genuinely believe we can beat Russia in a stand-up fight. It's all the Russians, you see, but the biggest threat is the Chinese. And the Chinese, you have to tip your hat to, are winning World War III without firing a single shot by influence and takeover and buying of stuff. I'm sure it'll rumble on. Parliament should be dissolved. Keir Starmer and that, pretty much most of the Labour government should be done for lying and misleading the House. We are run by traitors who should be tried for treason. Unfortunately, nowadays, it's just life imprisonment. It used to be one of the only things you would actually get hung for. The death penalty. They took that away. I always think it's funny how politicians will remove the ability for treason to be the death penalty because they want to commit treason. Any case, enough of that. Ways to support the channel down below. If you like what I'm saying and agree with what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button. And thank you to all those who have recently subscribed. Welcome, welcome. Once you're subscribed, ding the magic bell. Then that will allow you to be told by YouTube that I've done another video. In theory, not so much in practice, but it doesn't matter. You can like, you can share, you can let me know what you think in the comments section. That's if the YouTube AI bot doesn't delete your comment. And you think it's just me, but it's not. I mean, I've seen fishing channels and vet channels have comments deleted because they don't do it with humans anymore. It's an AI. Go figure. If you still want to talk to me and let me know, my DMs are always open on Facebook and X. The socials are linked down below. You can also use, coming across the screen now, gobstertalks@yahoo.com, which is this account's specifically designed email account, so you can send and talk to me on email if you so desire. Still surprised that we haven't been signed up to literally every porn site known to man, but it is what it is. It's there for you. It's there for you. And that's it. I'll catch you, well, in the next one. Oh, and by the way, this isn't sponsored by any Chinese company, I think.
You said to me that you can't stand the world you're living in no more. I can't say I blame you, and the whole world are just screaming out for